Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Ray, and I did my TNC presentation on IKEA. So the company was started in 1943 by Ingvar Kamprad. He started by making mail-order catalogs of local furniture makers' products to sell to nearby customers. The name is an acronym of his initials, IK, his family farm, Elmrid, E, and his local parish, Agunrud, which is the A, forming IKEA. And much in the current IKEA fashion, he saw an employee remove the legs from a piece of furniture in order to make it easier for transport, and thus the efficient flat packing that allows us to cram whole bed frames into our compact sedans was born. Interestingly enough, IKEA is a non-profit. So IKEA is notoriously Swedish, but as mentioned, there are now over 400 IKEA stores in 25 countries worldwide, generating about 936 million visits a year, still selling the flat-packed furniture, however on a much wider scale. The first IKEA stores outside of Sweden were in Norway in 1963 and Denmark in 1969. Following the commercial success found in Scandinavia, IKEA spread it first to Switzerland in 1973 and then later to West Germany in 1974. And then in the 1970s is when IKEA's international success really came into fruition, opening stores in Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore, and then finally later opening its first US-based store in 1985, just outside of Philadelphia. So how IKEA is so massively successful in its furniture selling at such low prices, it is currently owned by the Inca Holding Group and is ran as a non-profit. IKEA often faces scrutinies for its non-profit status and still defends its tax practices to the likes of the European Union. The company stands for good design, inexpensive pricing, and environmental health, and they take several steps to make this well known. But IKEA's corporate structure is a complicated array of not-for-profit and for-profit corporations, and the corporate structure as a whole is divided into two parts: operations and franchising. It is incredibly private, and higher-up executives do not have to report their salary due to privacy laws from the Netherlands. In founder Kamprad's absence upon his retirement, the foundation's rules include specific provisions requiring it to continue operating in the Inca Holding Group and making sure that its shares can only be sold to another foundation with the same objectives as the Inca Foundation. This allowed Kamprad to have a tight control over his company, even after he retired and set his son as board members. IKEA's non-profit tax status complicates matters even more. This intricate web of holdings and non-profit statuses allow the company to remain in its current ownership and pay minimum taxes. Gathering information on this was difficult due to the company's extreme privacy, but is apparent as to why it is set up this way. In a time where several American companies, such as Amazon and Apple, are facing the same sort of scrutiny from the from the European Union, IKEA stands to protect its important tax-exempt status. IKEA's nonprofit organization structure is intricate, and it allows them to only pay 3.5% of their billions in reported income. Kamprad's nonprofit organization is called Stichting Inca Foundation, whose main goals are to promote the future of interior design. However, out of the billions of profits, the organization only donated $1.7 million to a design school. The rest of the profits went into franchise stores and into a cushion for the future. Because the Inca Holding is operated by the nonprofit Inca Foundation, none of this profit is taxed. The foundation's nonprofit status also, however, means that the Kamprad family cannot reap these benefits directly, but the Kamprads do collect some of the IKEA sales profits through the franchising between Inca Holding and the inter-IKEA systems. IKEA's complicated tax practices expand beyond its nonprofit status. According to a report commissioned by the Greens and the EFA Group in European Parliament, the company has funneled much of its sales through tax havens on the continent. These countries include Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, and the Netherlands. According to the paper, IKEA moved billions of euros from high taxation countries, such as the UK, France, and Germany, into subsidiaries and undisclosed recipients and tax havens, paying little to no tax. IKEA also relies on its branding heavily because IKEA is such a cultural icon and experience. And to couple that with cheap prices, it is an equation for an inexpensive furniture heaven. IKEA is also a marketing genius in the sense that it implements so many tactics to draw people in and make them buy things. The IKEA showroom is like a labyrinth of couches, lights, desks, and any amount of pillows you could possibly need. By guiding visitors through every area of merchandise, it allows them more time to see, feel, and interact with items they may not have wanted in the first place. Much like the checkout stands at grocery stores with candy, except on a much grander scale. IKEA also uses a sales technique called bolla bolla, where they bulk items together in order to give them an impression of mass quantities and therefore inexpensiveness. IKEA also adapts to their markets. As a company originally from Sweden, there were a few hurdles to jump through when they opened U.S. locations. It expected no problem selling its bed and bedding despite the fact that all items were produced for the European market, where everything was made to metric measure. The sofas were too shallow, the curtains too short, and U.S. appliances did not fit into the kitchen cabinetry. The same problems popped up in tableware, where dinner plates and glasses were too small for American customers. But as time went on and more research conducted, IKEA developed itself to be more consumable to American markets, making it wildly successful in the front of European styles without compromising European comforts. Its globalized workforce is no secret, and its outsourcing is mentioned rather proudly on the company's website. IKEA prides itself in ethically employing migrant workers and making sure they follow standards of workplace safety and equality. From their website, it says, "At IKEA, we set clear standards for the recruitment and employment of workers through IWay, our code of conduct. Under no circumstances do we tolerate forced labor or human trafficking. We also expect our suppliers to treat migrant workers fairly and offer transparent employment terms and good working and living conditions." This responsible globalization idea that is displayed on their website is probably a response to the less than admirable practices of its past, surely. According to the Center for Research on Multinational Corporations, also called SOMO, working conditions in both Bangladesh and Vietnam in the IKEA supply chain are lacking. The website for IKEA boasts empowerment, but a report found late paid wages, workers working 72 hours per week, even though Bangladesh and IKEA's IWay initiative says maximum of 60, and reports of abuse from superiors. These shoddy working conditions are probably a massive part of the reason IKEA makes so much money while still allowing them to sell items for so cheap. The company is very Swedish in branding, but many of its products come from other countries. And during the 1980s, IKEA used labor from East Germany, therefore most likely political prisoners. Following the dissolving of the Berlin Wall, these forced workers filed for compensation from the company, and that is how these shady business practices came into light. Interestingly enough, on their website, IKEA focuses very heavily on providing a better life not only for the consumer, but also for the people in other countries who work for the manufacturing aspect. From the website, IKEA also gives this message: "We want to play our part in creating a better life for the people and communities touched by our businesses. From our coworkers, suppliers, to children and family living in some of the world's most vulnerable communities, we always strive to promote equality, diversity, and respect for human rights in everything we do." This is another way IKEA manages to give off an impression that the company is sustainable and good for everyone, even if it was not and may not always be that way. This is important marketing that allows them to influence not only consumers, but also anyone interested in expanding the outreach of IKEA in the means of opening new locations. So the most important factors in IKEA's extreme success is its nonprofit status that saves it millions of dollars annually, allowing it to keep furniture prices notoriously low. The extreme privacy of this company is how it manages to keep its nonprofit status. IKEA manages to keep this privacy by having different headquarters strategically placed in different countries like the Netherlands, where privacy laws do not require corporate higher-ups to report their salaries. IKEA also relies on heavy branding and their cult following, young people getting cheap furniture, or just people looking for good design for a good price. So in conclusion, IKEA is massive as it is the world's largest furniture store. Its cult following relies and feeds off of its meticulous and somewhat frantic branding. The tax evasion is questionable, especially since other companies are under extreme scrutiny for the exact same thing. However, IKEA will continue to prosper due to taxes, cheap labor, and loyal fan base. Kamprad set up the company so it can never be bought out, guaranteeing success if it continues to be ran the same way by the same people. As IKEA places such a strong emphasis on their sustainability, ethically sourced labor, whether that's true or not, and other public initiatives, young people and everyone alike will continue to shop there. Thank you.